Oh my god, do you love my fit today? Because I do. Hi, Sarah here. Welcome back. So today I come to you with a video diary of sorts. I guess this is kind of akin to how some people will do like monthly reflections and musings, although I don't want to commit myself to actually doing monthly video diaries or monthly reflections because sometimes I might not feel like actually having anything to say, but I just felt like saying some things today, kind of recapping some things recently. I also felt like recapping and just revisiting this like new year energy that we had at the beginning of the year, or that I had at the beginning of the year. My new journal set up, I had goals, I had intentions. A month in, it's typically a time when people start falling off their like New Year's resolutions and stuff. It might be a good time to just check in and kind of see where my energy is at now, where my goals and intentions and thoughts are at now. Where shall we start? Okay, let's start with the journals. So let me tell you, my journaling practice hobby has been very fun, very fulfilling. I got 3 different journals to show you today. So the first one I want to talk about is my everyday planner, everyday journal. It is the Hobonichi Techo. I am really, really enjoying this. I did make a whole video explaining and sharing my whole journal system, including my plans for the Hobonichi Techo as my everyday planner. Essentially, what I wanted from an everyday planner was a space for me to just log memories and notes and brain dump anything throughout the day. This has been so helpful. There's enough space for me to even add in little stickers, and it just is very, very satisfying for me to look at. The texture, like when I run my hand across the pages and just feel all the different textures of stickers, it's honestly very satisfying. And there are some pages where maybe I don't have too much to write, so I just put in a bunch more stickers. And there are other pages when I might have more to write, like in these pages here. I am really enjoying this mindful practice that comes from me checking in with my planner. I write down like things I want to do for the day. I write down things that I already did. I also write down things that I ate, because it's helpful for me to remember to eat and to look back at like what my eating habits, my eating trends are. Man, this system has been so helpful to me. I really look forward to checking in with my planner and actually writing in it and decorating it, putting stickers in it. So 10 out of 10 experience so far. My partner and I also developed this bingo card here, which you can see I've already filled out 2 of them. So this was a template that went viral on Instagram that I found out about. The template was only $2.24 on Canva, so I bought it. And it's basically a goals bingo. So initially I thought about doing a goals bingo for the whole year, but I thought it would be simpler and more actionable to do goals for the first quarter instead of for the whole 12 months of the year. My partner and I, we developed 24 goals that I then just randomized onto this bingo sheet. Some of these goals are things that we've wanted to do that we haven't gotten around to yet. Some of these are things that we know we have to do, so we're going to make sure we actually accomplish them. Some of these are like bigger projects that we want to do, so we're like writing down the first steps in this first quarter. So this is helpful to me, breaking down the year into smaller periods instead of looking at the year as a whole. The next journal I want to share is my tarot journal. So I have a cover for this now. And I also added a bunch of these like puffy stickers from one of the Chinese stores at the mall near me. So this one, I am just very happy with this gift. It's the paper is just so satisfying. Running my hand again over like the stickers, the different things that I've like taped into it, it's very, very satisfying. One of my goals for the year is to do more moon-based readings, lunar readings, but honestly, after I skipped out on the past like full moon reading, I realized that keeping up with all the moon readings is not feasible for me. It didn't really feel helpful to me to reflect on my whole life and my big goals every 2 weeks. You know, every new moon is like new intentions and every full moon is like big intentions. It just felt like a bit too much for me and not organic for me. So I am adjusting my goal on like lunar readings, moon readings, to instead just be like astrology based or astrology themed readings. I am generally interested in learning more about astrology. So yeah, we're going to try for astrology readings instead of just lunar readings. And I actually did one astrology reading here. So BB at Pure Red Velvet put up a video called Venus in Transit. So it's a video series where she's going to cover Venus, the planet Venus, as it transits through all the different zodiac signs throughout the year. So currently we're in the period of Venus into Sagittarius, or I guess now it's February, so we're moving into the next sign. You know, this first video was Venus in Sagittarius. So she recommended some books. She explained what the Venus sign means, what Venus in Sagittarius means. So in doing this Venus in Sagittarius reading, this Venus exploration activity, I looked into Venus in my own natal chart placement. So my Venus is in Capricorn. Googling what that means, the gist I got is that the way that I show love or like to receive love, the things I love most, are all things that are very dependable, very reliable. And then from there, I looked into where Capricorn is in my 12 houses. So Capricorn is in my 6th house, which I think also means that Venus is in my 6th house. Capricorn in my 6th house means I'm very committed to tasks. I can be a workaholic. I have trouble remembering my own needs and wants. We'll see how this astrology exploration goes throughout the year. But yeah, so I just pulled the Modern Love Tarot and I added a lot of pink to this spread here. Just wrote about this stuff and yeah. And the third journal I want to share is a new journal. Okay, so let me tell you about this journal real quick. So I bought a set of 3 of them secondhand a couple months back. And I had bought them because I was looking for more journals to make a monthly collections journal and add more to my journal and planner stack. I did not know that these were blank. I thought that they were lined or dot gridded, but they were blank. The tag on the front did say plain. I just didn't realize it really just didn't mean dot grid or lined. That's why you always check the description and the pictures before you buy things on the internet. I had these in my giveaway drawer for a couple months because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these. They're blank. And then earlier this week, I actually was feeling pretty gloomy and pretty depleted. So I didn't have much energy or motivation for my regular hobbies like tarot and knitting and crochet and stuff. I found a new hobby that I started getting more into. I realized I can just make a junk journal. Wow. So when I was younger, I always used to save paper ephemera like this, paper things. I didn't have the heart to throw them away. I would just keep a memory box, a memory shoe box. I used to save notes that my friends wrote me and just cute post-its and things like that. I've fallen off of it in many recent years, but I've been recently inspired again by YouTube to start my own junk journal using these plain notebooks. These are business cards and thank you cards from businesses and artists I've bought from online, and I didn't know what to do with them. They were just sitting on my desk in a pile, but now I can actually put them in a junk journal. This is my cousin's wedding invitation. This is a card from a tarot deck I got recently. This here is a swatch from my wedding shawl that I knitted. So I decided to just stick it in here because where else am I going to put it? This is from a bag that I bought in DC last year. It is actually really cool to see all these things together in one place now. Now they're not floating around my desk all haphazard. This is the Hobonichi Techo, they give you a little brochure, a little fold out. A small artist I bought from. Lucy and Yak is my favorite clothing brand. Postcard that my friend sent me. Holiday card. Another holiday card here. And this holiday card from one of my mail swaps. That'll be pasted in later as well. But yeah, so this junk journal is very satisfying. Very satisfying. I cannot believe over the many years that I've been alive, I never thought to actually junk journal. Okay, I know why though. It's because I used to think that things like this are unnecessary. I grew up with a very practical mindset. I have always prided myself on being practical, being functional. Art for the sake of art never really appealed to me. I always thought it was frivolous and whimsical. And the thing is, now I realize, now I have seen the light, things can be frivolous and whimsical and still enjoyable. The function of this is that it brings me joy. It's just very satisfying to look through and to have this physical collection of things that have brought me joy in the past. Needless to say, junk journaling, amazing, amazing. Ooh, so exciting. So that's the journal updates. Let's see. Oh, tarot. So speaking of tarot, we did a tarot swap recently. To quickly explain the tarot reading swap, it's a snail mail reading swap that I opened signups for on my channel a few weeks ago. Essentially, the activity is just that you're paired with someone on the internet and you exchange addresses and what type of reading you'd like or you'd like to give. And you literally just write something on paper or type something on paper and you mail it in the mail, aka snail mail. So it's a fun, different kind of activity because a lot of our communications now are via the internet. So it's pretty cool to revisit older forms of communication, like talking via email. And also, again, just writing a letter and sending it in the mail and having a tangible something from someone from the internet, someone from around the world. And many people even wanted to do 2 swaps, which was very nice, very fun. I myself also did 1 swap, and it was honestly just very fulfilling to coordinate back and forth with my partner, with my buddy. We were writing long emails back and forth to each other, just having a lot to say, and it just made me so happy to share this kind of old school way of communication. She shared with me the story of her first email and how she used to have to go to the library to log onto a computer and log onto her email. And also how back then they thought that computers that would be handheld were so futuristic. And now, like many years later, here we are. Very fascinating to connect with someone one-on-one, even for a brief time. I haven't emailed her back in like a week because I've been really busy, but I just really, really enjoy the tarot swap, the buddy pairing, and I'm happy that people are enjoying their own buddy swaps. I cannot wait for the mail to start rolling in. I sent mine out like last week Saturday. Haven't received mine yet, but it's okay because we're internationally swapping. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed hearing from people that they enjoyed it or what kind of conversations they were having with their buddies. Maybe we'll coordinate one again in February leading into March. I guess if I do that, just look out for that video announcing when signups are open. Okay, next is books, and I don't know how often I'll be actually talking about this, but for this video diary entry, I really want to share like these things about books. Okay, so I have not borrowed physical books from the library in ages. I've mainly borrowed like audiobooks when I used to go into the office, and then now just ebooks to read on my Kindle. So the other day I was out and about and I stopped by a library just for the fun of it. I decided to go to the manga section and just borrow some manga. Unfortunately, Kindle does not support manga borrowed from the library, so I have to read it in like basically a web browser, and just reading it on my small phone is just very unfortunate sometimes. So I decided to go to the library and borrow some manga books, some physical books, because they're easier to flip through. And I found this Sailor Moon Volume 3 Eternal Edition. I never knew an Eternal Edition existed. I've read the first 2 volumes already, borrowed digitally. So now I'm on the 3rd one. And of course I wanted to go for the Eternal Edition because it's so much bigger. It also has some full color illustrations like this. Oh, it's so beautiful to look at. I never read the Sailor Moon manga growing up. I always thought the art was like kind of weird. I just didn't really connect with it. I really favored the anime art more than the manga art style. But now as an adult, I actually really see the appeal of the art here because it's just so dreamy. It really brings me back to the olden days when I did used to read a lot of shoujo manga in the library. I used to just hole up in those chairs and read these manga. What's wonderful about shoujo is it's just so dreamy. The eyes, the bodies, the hands, the attacks, very flowery and very romantic and very girlish. So I'm very happy to be revisiting this part of. So yeah, I'm gonna read the manga front to back for the first time ever. I have watched the anime series in full like a few times, but never read the manga. So now, first time for everything. I also borrowed another couple of manga. I don't know if I'm gonna finish these by the time the books are due in a few weeks, but I was ambitious. And it's very easy to pick up like a lot of things when I'm at the library. One I got was this Orange series. My favorite booktuber, Cindy Pham, recommended this one. I'm not very great with summaries, so I'm not really gonna try. Essentially, she recommended this one, Orange. It's a very thick one, as you can see. And then I saw another thick book, and I decided to just grab it for the fun of it. This one is called Girlfriends. As you can see, it's a girl-girl romance. So yeah, ugh, look at these flip phones. So nostalgic. Seeing this art style, the flowy art style, the soft colors, these like big shoujo eyes, it really brings me back. This is just my aesthetic. And also on the topic of books, so I went to Philadelphia this last weekend for an unexpected last-minute family emergency, and I had time to browse Philadelphia a little bit. So we went down South Street, and I happened upon this indie bookstore called The Wooden Shoe. Oh my gosh, very, very cool bookstore. I haven't been to that many indie bookstores. I don't buy a lot of or any like physical books, but I was very happy to buy some from this bookstore to commemorate my Philadelphia trip, and also just because the store is very, very cool. This is an indie bookstore that really focuses on and highlights like themes of anarchy, revolution, anti-capitalism, anti-patriarchy, feminism, queer rights, and queer existence, really. Like, it's just a lot of very cool topics. I ended up buying a few things here. So one thing I got was this slingshot organizer. This one I saw on Wesley at 22 Zines' channel. So this is volunteer created by a group in Berkeley. It's sort of a planner or organizer, but what's cool about this one is that it lists historical events that happened on every day of the year. So let's go to Let's see, January 29th, 1889. 6,000 railway workers strike for union and end of 18-hour day. That's wild. We used to have to work 18-hour days. 1996, Salvadoran court returns confiscated equipment to 11 community radio stations. I am looking forward to learning more bits and pieces about like unions and like radical movements and actions throughout history, or oppressive movements and actions throughout history. This is a good gateway for me because I don't even know where to start in learning about things like that. So I just think this is a cool like bite-sized piece of history that I can learn about. Another book I got was this one. It's called Abolish Work. So this one is 2 pamphlets in one. We have Abolish Restaurants and Work, Community, Politics, War. I already read the first one, Abolish Restaurants. This is more like a graphic novel style rather than only text. I found it pretty informative in learning about how the way that restaurants are structured is not super conducive to a team environment. I've never worked in the restaurant industry or the service industry. Learning about the conditions of restaurants and the hierarchy, the politics, the interpersonal politics between restaurant workers and customers and restaurant workers and their own restaurant workers, like, it's fascinating. The third book I got was How to Break Up with Your Phone by Catherine Price. I have a phone addiction, or maybe a behavioral addiction with checking my phone. And it took me a while to admit this. In my opinion, it's not really a quirky thing. Me constantly checking my phone or feeling like I can't function or exist without being on my phone or having my phone near me, it is debilitating to me. It's definitely a common symptom among a lot of people in our society. Our phones are designed to keep our attention, and the more time and energy that I waste being on my phone unnecessarily, that's time and energy I could have spent doing things that actually bring me joy. There's a lot of thoughts I have about this behavioral addiction topic and sharing my own experience with like my behavioral addiction. I hope to make another video about it sometime, but in the meantime, this book has been helpful to me so far. I've read the first section already and it's been pretty helpful. The first section is bringing to attention a lot of the different ways that our phones are designed to keep our attention. Section 2 is going to be a 30-day plan of slowly detoxing myself from my excessive phone usage, my excessive phone checking, really. When I have a chance, I will block out a 30-day period in my calendar, hopefully very soon, where I can start going through this 30-day plan and be more mindful of my phone actions. The 30-day plan isn't about me like cutting off my phone cold turkey. It's a very gradual, like, start being mindful, start tracking like how much time you spend on apps, start tracking this and that, and then we kind of slowly start weaning ourselves off of it. It's just a gradual like mindfulness more than anything. But of course, I'll know more about it when I actually go through the plan. And the last thing I got from this indie bookstore, The Wooden Shoe, which segues into the last topic here, is this really cool tarot deck. This is the Turning Terrestrial Tides Tarot, which I did not think I was going to get, but I have seen a couple of walkthroughs and people talking about this. Laura at Aquamarine 18 showed this and I was pretty enamored. I didn't think I was going to get it, but when I saw this physical item sitting in that display, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna grab that too. So this deck is a zine themed or zine styled deck. And I feel like it just really goes hand in hand with my recent interest in junk journaling and collaging and adding more elements and interesting things to my pages. I was not ready for this deck like months ago, but I'm definitely ready for it now. Surprisingly, I've already done some card pulls with this. Normally, my habit with tarot decks is I tend to receive them and then I will like put them away to be used at some later time. But for this one, I felt like, okay, I'm going to try to start using it right away. So I have it on my desk and I've been pulling a card every so often to read it and to think about it. And on the topic of tarot, typically in these monthly reflections and monthly musings, people do tend to share like what decks they've used recently, what decks they've worked with. I don't think that kind of topic or prompt, like talking about what decks I've used recently, is very helpful to share on camera because honestly, for the most part, I really only do like 1, maybe 2 readings with a deck like per month. I'm not in this phase right now where I'm trying to deeply work with a single deck for the whole month. I just kind of pull whatever deck I feel like for doing readings. I don't feel like it'd be helpful for me to share like what decks I worked with because I didn't really work with them like beyond just doing one single reading. I do want to share a deck that I've been diving into more recently. So, this week has been a bit of a gloomy week. I think I've mentioned this already. My general mindset has just been very gloomy, very introspective. I think it's partially the weather, but partly just personal stuff going on, and partly just the mood I'm in. So, I decided to go for this deck that I have not done too many readings with since I got, but now I'm diving into it more. It is the Naturescapes Tarot by Queen of Wands. Why I was drawn to this deck is because of these beautiful landscape photos. I felt like the gloominess was kind of coming from like thinking about the mortality of humankind and our individual lives, thinking about like the impermanence of everything, and sometimes how like being in the city really sucks for trying to make friends and socialize and stuff. Not only that, like traveling is a lot of effort. It honestly really physically exhausts me to do much traveling, whether by driving or by flying. So I was craving just escaping to another world for a bit. And I feel like the Naturescapes is a perfect way to do that. The past few days, I've just drawn a single card and really meditated on it, maybe path worked a little bit into it, just let the meaning of the card and the image of the card really soak into my mind. I've only done this like 3 times so far over the past 3 days, but I will say it has been really helpful to be gloomy but still sit with the Naturescapes Tarot. Like sometimes you just think about like how big the world is, right? And how like we are in such a small speck of ground on this big world that we live in. I don't know, but yeah, I guess that's just where the Naturescapes comes in. It just reminds me of like how big our world is and how much variety there is outside of the small bubble that I live in and operate in every day. Hi, Potato Sarah here with my 5 head. One more thing I want to mention in this video diary entry. It's about physical fitness and exercise. I started doing aerial like over 2 years ago when one of my best friends introduced me to it. Aerial exercise is basically doing tricks and climbs and stuff like on apparatuses in the air. Out of all the physical exercises I had done up until this point, I had fallen in love really hard with aerial. There's just something very physically and mentally stimulating about being in the air and having to perform all of these different tricks. Aerial had always been something just for fun for me, so that's why I just went to classes like pretty infrequently. Last year, I was so busy with wedding planning that I didn't have much time to do aerial classes. And in September to December, my aerial instructor was out of commission. This past month in January, she moved out of state, so I started looking for a new aerial studio to do aerial classes again. So I'm happy to report that 2 weeks ago, I finally went to my first aerial class in like many, many months, and I have to say it was a struggle bus. It was different taking a studio class than a private class because in the private class that we had, the 2 or 3 of us that were there are usually just sharing the one apparatus. But in a studio class, everyone has their own apparatus. I didn't realize what a difference it would make having my own apparatus in class versus sharing with other people. I got to do tricks on my own or just practice on my own, feel and get used to holding the silk on my own again. But truly, it was such a struggle bus doing aerial for the first time after many months of not doing aerial and not doing any physical activity either. Like I had fallen off of going to the gym even since like September. Because my body was so out of shape, I was struggling to like do pull-ups. I was struggling to hold myself up in the air so that I could do straddles and climbs properly. It was very frustrating to me to know that I had once been able to execute very cool, beautiful, daring, challenging, tricky moves in the air. And now I had been reduced to this, just a potato, a shapeless jelly potato. But it was a fun experience nonetheless. It motivated me to start going to the gym again. So the past couple weeks, I have been more diligent about going to the gym. And just this past weekend, I went to another aerial class and I was in much better shape and it felt a lot better. Truly, physical activities is one of those things that I forget how good it feels until I go do it regularly. 2 weeks ago, after that first aerial class, I was so sore for the next 2 days. I was dying. My body was so sore and so creaky, but I was determined to go back and do physical exercise again. It is just so necessary to physically exercise, to work out. It's good for the body and it's good for the mind. It's nice to have like that me time, stepping out of the apartment, doing my workout, listening to videos or music in the background, just letting myself zone out and let the thoughts come and go. It's just so good. So just wanted to slide this little update in there. I hope I do more aerial exercise this year. If you've been slacking on your physical exercise, see if you can start with like basic 10 minutes a day of movement. That's what I'm trying for, bare minimum. Let us continue to exercise together and move our bodies. Yeah, just get our hearts racing once in a while. So that is the video diary entry for today. Again, I'm not sure if I'll be posting these in any sort of consistency, but that's okay. I don't think anybody's expecting me to post anything. Yeah, that's just the nature of a diary, really. You just check in when you feel like it, not because you have to. I guess to close off, I could just draw a card from the Turning Terrestrial Tides. Food for thought. Food for thought. Okay, everything looks different upside down. So this one is the suspended, and I'll put an actual picture on the screen. The text here says, "We don't have all the answers, and that's okay." Wow, I was literally just saying something, 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 and that's okay. The synchronicities, something, 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 right? I guess the last thing I'll say is this is over a year now that I've been on like the tarot tube side of tarot tube. I did start off with doing like certain pick a card readings to just get more familiar with talking on camera. And now I've evolved into showing my face and having different video formats and different filming locations or filming setups too. I'm really happy with like what I've been doing with my channel, just having this space as a way to talk out loud, but also to share my things out there. Some of these videos are just helpful for me to have and to watch back for me. I'm always curious to hear what other people are up to. Have you bought any decks recently or any books? Are there any goals you are revisiting or adapting from the beginning of the year? How are your journals and planners going? I'm just curious to hear about things like that. Well, that is all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Bye!